Ah, yes, Outward. A game notorious for how hard it is. And quote unquote how tedious the survival mechanics in the game are by many reviewers. We don't talk about those people, especially IGN.
While having to eat, drink, and rest to stay alive adds a lot to some games, the decisions you make here are so routine and basic that they feel superfluous.
When you read these reviews and you see a lot of reviews like I have, and I've done like a little bit of research before making this video, you find that a lot of people have the same complaints. And to be honest with you, they really missed the mark with what this game is supposed to be. I read a lot of comments, even just from experience myself. You can see that a lot of reviewers and a lot of people that complain about the game really missed the mark of what this game is supposed to be. Imagine going into Minecraft and complaining that it's unrealistic because blocks can float. People are just missing the mark with what Minecraft is, right? And that's the same with this game. People complain about survival mechanics, or they complain about how hard or challenging or even punishing the game is. But that's what the game is. Now, I don't want this to be, a whole complaining video, so I'm going to go into the review. I'm here to show you that Outward is a great game. I think the survival mechanics work well in this game. I think a lot of things work well in this game. And I think a lot of things don't work well. And that's what I'm going to discuss today. I want to discuss the combat. I want to discuss the survival mechanics. I want to discuss the graphics, the gameplay, the story. I want to discuss everything in this game and kind of break down what makes this game so unique and challenging, similar to Souls-like, where, it's the difficulty that makes it fun. It's not like Souls-like where you die 200 times trying to get to the first boss, which totally didn't happen to me. But in a sense that the game punishes you for making mistakes. The game punishes you every chance it gets. It makes the mobs harder at the start and in each section, but there's always a reward in the end, and you can definitely feel the progression throughout the game. Combat is split into two sections. You got the first section, which is the mundane, boring ass combat like a turn-based game. And then the second section is the combat that everyone tries to go for, which is the end game or mid to end game combat where you get cool spells and abilities and everything you want. And this is the problem with combat in this game. It is very crap early game, but it's 10 times better once you actually start playing the game. And I think this is what put off a lot of people about Outward, or this is one of the many tragedies with it, is the gameplay at the start is very hack and slash and not very fun to do. So a lot of times you'll just avoid combat because there's no point wasting all your food and your stamina and your health on fighting two bandits that are going to end up taking all your resources anyway because you don't have good armor. And plus, you don't have a lot of the skills to be able to take out a group, so it's better just to avoid them. Okay, so we know about early game combat. What about mid to end game? Well, I could say it is very fun. It's a lot of fun doing combat end game or later in the game, as you can literally use a combination of skills to take out enemies. There's more variety to it. Like, you use all these buffs, you use these skills you get that you've earned from doing quests and running around and adventuring, and it's just a lot of fun. You can combine these skills to do better combos, which can one-shot enemies or can eventually defeat bosses very easily. I do like the skill and combat system in this game. So what Outward has done is, instead of a leveling system or an XP system, instead you use silver to buy skills from trainers or be trained by them. I like this idea. I think it's nice, and it's a different change to what's usually in games. And it makes it a bit more grindy, I guess, but you can get a lot of skills in this game without having to use XP or anything. It actually forces you to go travel around places because you need certain trainers in certain cities or certain areas. And it's not easy to earn silver, but once you do, the progression and you feel like you've accomplished something. Like, once you build your class up and have a really OP class, the class you want, it's a lot of fun. But I definitely do say that is a massive problem. I do like a challenge in the game. I like this game's challenge in the way it does it and trying to punish you in every way, but I feel like it's very unappealing to fight early game. There's not a lot you can do, and like I said, there's just hack and slash until you kill that enemy. I hope that Outward adds in something like what Dark Souls is doing, or, you know, Elden Ring, where, you know, we do repeatedly hack and slash instead the animations are a bit spiced up, right? It'll make it a bit more interesting combat, because I'm not gonna lie, the combat early game is not great. It's fun, it's not too bad, but I'd rather just avoid fights if I can avoid them, you know what I mean? Alright then, now I'll talk about the weapons and armor. This shouldn't be too long, but I think they're great. I love the weapon designs, I love the armor designs, I love the amount of weapons or armor there is. There's so much variety and so much replayability. It's just so insane. For such a small game, I give props to the people that made the graphic designers, or whatever, that made the armor, because they are so freaking cool. Look at this armor. And look at this armor. Look how OP and look how menacing they look. I think they look amazing. And the armor as well, I think each has, I like the uniqueness in each one, and you can definitely swap out, and each class has a really nice set of armor. There's not one class I can't think of that doesn't have some armor that's going to really benefit in fights or throughout the game. It's just insane. And even with weapons, there's so many variety in weapons, so many different types of weapon types, that it's absolutely insane. Like, I can't even give enough recognition or props to these guys. It's absolutely insane and so unique and so awesome that, like I said, so much replayability. There's not one playthrough that you'll do that's the same. So the graphics, atmosphere, and music really tie in well with each other, but there are some things that concern me a lot about this game. But I want to talk about the pros. I think the atmosphere and music in this game, and even some of the graphics, are really nice. They give that fantasy sort of feel to the game, and it all ties in very well, especially the music. The music complements very well with the atmosphere of this game. Like I said, you get that, you know, sort of fantasy sort of feel to the game, and each region has their distinct track and feel. Like, for example, when you're in Sharenice, you kind of feel it's quieter than music. It's a bit more lonely, you know what I mean? But when you go to, the Hallowed Marsh, for example, it's more upbeat and jungle-like. It's like mystical, you know, because the Hallowed Marsh, you got plants everywhere, and it feels like you're in a jungle. Or even just going to the Abrasa Desert, it feels like the music's so upbeat, and you got to keep moving, because, you know, it's hot in the desert, you know what I mean? Which I like that. I think it's really nice, and Gene did a really nice job. The musician that did the music for Outward, he did a really good job with the music, and I think it's absolutely on point. And I don't think he could have done anything better. The atmosphere in this game. The atmosphere is good. Like I said, you get that fantasy sort of feel, and that's pretty much like it's kind of safe for it, I guess. And this may feel repetitive as well, but like the atmosphere just depends on what region you're in. It's different. It's similar to music. Depends where you are, depends what you're doing. Like, for example, you go into a dungeon, right, and the atmosphere is like creepy and dark, and the music has that quiet and scary music, like you don't know what's around the corner, right? The atmosphere and music complement each other very, very well, and I love it. It's so nice. Now, the graphics, on the other hand, it's kind of hard to say. You kind of got animations, you kind of got graphics. The graphics are interesting. They're outdated. That's all I can say. The graphics are outdated. They're not terrible. It's very outdated, and I understand why. They only had a small team working on this game, so I don't think graphics would have been their biggest concern. But even just looking at some of the things, like the animations they've done, whoever made these like animations or weapon designs, like I was saying earlier, perfect job, so nice. But when looking at the world, sometimes it's very, yeah, barren and boring, and the atmosphere is very, it's just boring. It's not much else I could say about it. There's no AI around. There's not a lot going on. It feels like you're just running for a long time as well. It kind of becomes a running simulator. It's just not good. Like, I kind of wish they added a bit more life to the game, right? I wish they, like, it's what I love. That's why I love about Skyrim and Oblivion is it's always like you're always running into a town, or you're always running into a dungeon you can go explore. Whereas Outward, there are dungeons, but you got to kind of look for them, right? They're really hidden. Some of them, they're just in the open, but you gotta look for a lot of dungeons. You gotta know where they are. And unless you go out of your way to find them, it just feels barren, this world. And this is a massive problem. I hate it. It's terrible, and it feels really annoying. I think the only area so far that I've played, I haven't played DLCs, but the only area that I feel like, you're always doing something, or his life is the Hallowed Marsh. It seems to me that they've gone from this Hallowed Marsh was like developed last, and that's where they had all this, everything that's so good is in that area. Perfect music, perfect atmosphere. The graphics are beautiful. There's so much going on there. And then, but you got Sharon East, which is just barren as fuck with no trees, just grass. Looks nice some of the areas, but very, very barren, and that's not a good thing. It's terrible. But I can't blame them really. It's a small team, but I hope since, they sold a lot of copies in the future, in the next couple of years, even next year or this year, they release or they do an update where they revamp the graphics, or even just the world itself, add some more stuff, because it definitely needs to happen. It's not good. It's not very good. So that sounds kind of a bit contradictory with the atmosphere, but like I said, it's a bit hard to explain, or a bit hard to kind of compare, because some situations the atmosphere is really nice and good, but in some situations it's terrible, especially with some of the graphics that aren't great. But moving on with graphics, like I was saying earlier, the animations, the weapon designs, the clothes designs, just amazing. Even like the effects of spells and stuff, just you feel so mystical and magical, right? Just amazing. But like you got the character designs. Character designs look like Play-Doh. The characters themselves look like NPCs, look like Play-Doh, some of them. It's just not great. So overall, I'll say the graphics and atmosphere and music. The graphics aren't great, but the atmosphere and music, or the music especially, is just perfect. Like, so nice, the music in some situations. Like, almost every situation, the music just complements very well with what's going on. Combat, dungeons, town, just running and adventuring, perfect. The graphics and atmosphere sometimes lacks a little bit, and it's a massive downfall for this game. It hits hard, I think, and I really, really hope they fix this in the future. Alrighty now, so now we talk about story and quest. What do I think about it? I think it's okay. I think the story and quest is not bad, and it's not great. As in, not great as in Fallout New Vegas level. I'd say it's probably in between. It's not really focused. Well, this game's not really focused on the story, I think. It's more just playing the game and adventuring and exploring this game's all about, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. But this game's story, like the main story, is not too bad. I'm not going to spoil it in this video, but I really like the lore in this game, and I don't mind the main quest, but it's not something you focus on. It's not something I was going, oh man, I can't wait to get onto the main quest. I just do it just to progress in the story. You know what I mean? So, it's there. I don't mind it. It's a little bit tedious. The main quest is a little bit tedious because you have to go back and forth a lot, but it's not too bad. I don't mind it. It's interesting. Like I said, I like the lore. I like the whole story of Auria, whatever the world of Outward is. It's good. The side quests aren't too bad. Like, I don't mind doing the side quests. They spice the things up a bit. They make you go do things that you wouldn't normally do. Like, for example, one of the first quests is, oh, can you go grab this mushroom for me? And turns out the mushroom's a shield, which you might have seen in a few clips in this video. And yeah, so you could either use a mushroom shield or you give it to the chick and you get money for it. Stuff like that. And I do particularly like this one quest where you'll go into each town and the merchants will have delivery orders for going to further towns. So they'll be like, oh, I need this delivered to this town. Can you do it for me? And more than likely, you're going to be moving or going to that town anyway. So it's just some free money or free gems or whatever you get from it, which is really nice. I really like that. And it gives me the incentive to go to that town a bit more. Like I said, the main story is okay. It's nothing crazy, but it's good. It keeps you busy at least. The one thing I really don't like about the main quest is you'll do a bit of it, and say if one point you just want to smash out a few missions for the main quest. You're like, I'm here now, I want to do it, let's just get some stuff done. The game will be like, wait 3 days before you can come back. And it's just really annoying. I usually just sleep that 3 days, but it's so annoying. It just goes to show that story isn't too long. And also, if you are going to do different playthroughs, do not expect the story to change a whole heap. It's a bit different. I've played in each faction. It's a little bit different. But it's nothing drastic. It's, it's not, you're not going to be it's not game changing at all, which I wish they kind of did a bit more. But it's definitely good to go try out the different factions. They do have the different backstories and lore and quests and all that, but it's sort of the same canvas that they're all on. It's the same sort of concept. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it. So if you want to go have a look online what story's about, you do you, but I don't want to spoil it for people if they do want to play this game. But yeah, it's sort of the same canvas, and you know, it's not a bad thing, I guess. So yeah, overall, the story and quest, not too bad. They're not fantastic, but they definitely will keep you busy. And I think the lore I find very interesting of this world. It's more, I like the lore more than the quest. It's very interesting. So I'd recommend definitely giving this game a go. Especially if you do like questing and lore and stuff like that. It'd definitely be something you'd enjoy. So I briefly mentioned this at the start of the video about the survival mechanics of this game. I generally love it. I think the survival mechanics are added very well, and I've been briefly mentioning this throughout the video and how it helps with a lot of the other mechanics in the game. How survival is in this game is what most people don't like, and most companies or studios try to stay away from, is the hunger bar stuff or the water. I like it. I think it's nice. I like how you can use resources around you to make food on the go. Especially with like having a campfire and a cooking pot. So yeah, that clip of the IGN thing, I don't particularly agree with it. You're not always just placing campfire down and cooking. You usually go into a town or before you even go to the next area and you have everything prepped. It's all about planning mostly. And that's how you can get away from that really tedious cooking side of the game or making food and stuff. It's just by having good food, like investing in food, investing in potions and all that, all this sort of stuff that'll help you survive. And that's what that's the uniqueness of this game. It's an RPG where it's more survival based and adventure and exploring rather than just RPG where you run around, you're a gold, right? Like I said, you're a normal person. And basically, as well as survival works, is you got different mechanics you got to try and look out for. So you got, when you go into certain regions, for example, the Abrasa Desert's hot, so you can't have heavy clothes, or you can't have certain clothes on. Some clothes will help with the heat. I generally just strip down and run across the desert. But you got certain foods that can help that. Cactuses, water, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and even like Sharonese, there's one point of so there's like a seasonal thing in Sharonese where it starts to snow. So if you don't have warm clothes on, you'll start to freeze to death and you'll actually start dying. And they have debuffs and all that. So you got to keep track of all that sort of stuff. And then you have what I call the camping element of this game. Basically what this is you have your tent, and if you need to sleep, or you need to regenerate your health, whatever, you generally just pitch a tent and going through with that. How this can really help though is when your health is decreased by a large amount, and I explained this a little bit before, or your stamina, you start to get burnt stamina and health. Basically, the only way you can fix that is by either drinking tea, from what I know, or sleeping. Sleeping's probably the best way, and it saves your resources. But yeah, you can basically sleep wherever you want, but you have ambush chances depending on where you sleep. Usually in a dungeon, it'll be a lot higher, but if you're out in a field, it'll be a lot lower. And there are little safe zones around the map where they're indicated by butterflies flying around, and it's got that little glitter sound to it. They're 100% safe, so you can actually sleep there without any risk of ambush. The ambush mechanic is also accompanied by the repairing mechanic, which basically if your arm is starting to get damaged, you can just repair as you're sleeping. Or you gotta sleep and then add a bit more time to repairing. And if you're playing by yourself, the only way you can combat the ambush mechanic is by guarding. This is better if you're playing co-op or with a mate, because one of these can sleep and the other can guard, and vice versa, which is really nice. So the camping mechanic adds a bit more to that survival. And this is what I generally do. If I'm out in the world for a while and I'm not going to a town or anything, I will, as I'm camping, put a campfire down, because sometimes you'll need a campfire because it gets really cold at night. And then I'll cook my food, do all that stuff, sleep, get up, go. That adds that less tedious side to the game, which a lot of people are experiencing. And generally, if you just plan ahead, then you won't really feel like you're repeating yourself every 10 minutes. If you invest in good food and get good recipes, like I was explaining earlier, there's that tedious side of the game, you won't really feel it. Overall, Outward is a great survival adventure RPG that I thoroughly explored, played, had many playthroughs actually, and I think I got a pretty good idea of who it's for. I think this game's for like a lot of people. If you can handle the early game mundane combat and the frustrating deaths and how the game tries to beat you down, I think you'll definitely enjoy the game further on. It's a lot of fun. I definitely, like I said, put a lot of hours into this, and for someone that, for me, I came from an FPS sort of background now playing RPGs mostly and MMOs and all that jazz, it definitely got me into this genre. It was probably one of the first RPGs I played other than Fallout, and it really opened the grand scheme of gaming and how a game should be made. A lot of the gaming industry tries to stray away from this tedious and hard side of games like Dark Souls. I think Outward's an underrated gem. If you are going to definitely play this game, you'll definitely have to look more into the game rather than what most games are like. It's very different to a lot of RPGs, as in more that survival adventure sort of feel to it. A lot of the negative comments were mostly because people, no offense, but didn't really understand the game. They didn't really know what the game was about, and they went into that mindset of, oh, it's just a classic RPG where I'm an all-powerful being that doesn't have to do anything. All I have to worry about is if this enemy's just going to kill me, or when am I going to run out of mana. So I think that's what people need to go into this. They need to have an open mindset, especially this game is different. It's trying to create a different sort of feel to a game. That's what its whole agenda is about. In the trailers, it said it's a hard game. It's not supposed to be the same. And I really like that. I really like how a game is definitely trying to push the boundaries of what most games should be like. And so yeah, that's my review of Outward. Hope you guys enjoyed and have a good one.